invited by the light, the warmth of your arms.
Ik heb het binnen 3 dagen uitgelezen, maar ook meer nachten, want ik kon het gewoon niet wegleggen. Het was echt heel erg, het greep me wel echt vast, zeg maar.
Well, it's really a book about two people who should be similar, who grew up together and have the same parents, but then the same incident, the same catalyst, provokes them to react in two entirely different ways. And one is a good guy and one isn't. And it's really a book about the effects of environment and circumstance on an individual and what it prompts them to do.
Mark the spot and take what's there for you. It's all for you. It's all for you.
Do you think genetics in a person are the stronger part that determine the actions?
No.
Given in this, or is it the circumstances and the person's own will?
It's the person themselves, not the body. You know, I mean, I'm a firm believer in the spirituality of human beings, and I believe that people arrive with a personality.
Okay.
You know, and I believe also that there's something beyond the death of one's immediate physical entity, you know what I mean? So I think, you know, I was asked this afternoon, is it nature or nurture? I'm very definitely in the direction of nature. I mean, nurture, yes, educational, environmental, social and familial influences, but I think those external influences act as catalysts to prompt something that's already inherently there. You know, I mean, I'm of a generation that was, I think, overwhelmed by American culture. We were overwhelmed by American culture as children. I kind of had an odd upbringing. My father disappeared before I was born. I think he kind of had some premonition that trouble was on the way and he just got out as quickly as he could. And then my mother died when I was 7. My grandfather on my mother's side had drowned in the 50s, so I never knew him. And obviously my father's parents I never knew, because I never knew my father. I found out my father's name a few weeks ago, actually. But I'm not going to look him up, even though he owes me a lot of pocket money. 40 years worth of pocket money. So I was sent when I was 7 to an orphanage for 9 years. And I just got lost in film and music and books. I think I just escaped into film and music, and I read Dickens and Hardy and the English classics, and then somebody gave me a copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, and I read that, and that was it. It was all over, you know. And that then from there it was, you know, Willa Cather and Carson McCullers and Steinbeck and Hemingway and Cormac McCarthy and those kind of authors I really love. James M. Cain, Raymond Chandler. Those were the ones that really spoke to me.
That's the hardest question that you could ever ask anybody. That's like asking somebody, what's your favourite song? That's a very, very difficult thing. However, if you sent me in exile to a desert island and said I could take 10 books, that would be okay. Perhaps In Cold Blood by Capote, The Shipping News by Annie Proulx, maybe It by Stephen King.
I started writing in the latter part of 1987, and over the subsequent 6 years I wrote 22 novels, and I sent them everywhere, in the UK and in America. And I accumulated a heroic mountain of rejection letters, 600 of them, 500-600 letters of rejection. The nicest ones I've kept, you know. I've kept the nicest 200, you know, just for nostalgia's sake. And I quit writing for 8 years. I stopped writing for 8 years. And I pursued interests in photography and journalism, and I was actually going to do war journalism. I was going to be a war photojournalist. And I had a tremendous amount of debt because I was working for charities and you know, humanitarian organizations and earning no money. And I had to take a job, a regular job, in order to earn some income to pay off this debt. And I was going to go to Angola and cover the Civil War. That's what I intended to do. Not a particularly sensible choice of profession, but this is what I wanted to do. And while I was working for this company, 9/11 happened. And 9/11 really impinged upon me, affected me significantly from the viewpoint of that idea of the best part of 3,000 people left home one morning and didn't go back. And all I thought about was all those unrealized aspirations and all those unfulfilled goals. And it reminded me of something that my grandmother used to say to me, which was, don't ever be one of those people that lead a what-if life. Don't get to the end of your life and think, what if I had? And so I thought, well, when was I happiest? What was I happiest doing? I was happiest writing. I don't want to get to the end of my life and think, what would have happened if I'd just given it one more go? So the following day, the day after 9/11, I started writing again. I wrote 3 novels, and the middle one was picked up by a publishing company in June of 2002 and then published in July 2003, and then we've done one every year since. So the forthcoming one in June in England is going to be the 11th. So it sort of took off from there. But from the day that I started writing to the day that I actually got a publishing contract was 23 novels in 15 years, with an 8-year gap of writing nothing.
Okay. Finally, the sort of the random violence that Digger commits in this book it made me think also of the shootings in the schools. I remember bringing my kids to school the morning after this happened in the States the last time, and you know this could happen here too, and there's nothing you can do about it. Is that also a character like Digger? Is that the most scary kind of violence? Because anybody here, you know, you could walk out of a bookstore now and meet somebody like this. Or
well, I think, you know, things like that, incidents like that, just serve to remind us that life is precious, but it can also be very fragile. In all my experience, years of experience of talking to the police, the FBI, the CIA, meeting some of the craziest and most dangerous people that you could ever hope to meet, work with charities, work with drug addicts, work with, you know, for the last 30 years, 25 years. The thing I know and I believe is that the dangerous ones make up the tiniest percentage imaginable, tiniest percentage. And that the vast, vast majority, you know, 98% of people, 97% of people are good, kind, decent, honest, compassionate, caring individuals who want to survive and be happy and want others to survive and be happy too. And that I also feel that these things do happen. But, you know, I ask this often in England when I do signings. Put your hand up if you've been directly or indirectly involved in a murder, grievous violence, kidnapping or bank robbery, or been witness to it in your own life. And the number of people that have is tiny, very, very tiny. The newspapers and the media would have us believe that it's a much more dangerous environment than it actually is. So if you live your life afraid of the things that you can't predict or can't control, that's a good way to be very unhappy. Really.
Been hanging on to the secret. Oh, where do we go from here? This is all unclear.
Oh, well, I don't know whether writing is my religion and music is my philosophy, or writing is my philosophy and music is my religion. So to have books and music in the same place at the same time, I'm happy, absolutely. They do this in Italy as well, where they have festivals that are not just book festivals, they're sort of cultural festivals, and you have a week of music and books, and authors and musical artists appear together, and they have films in the evening, and they set a cinema aside, and everybody goes to the cinema, and there's a presentation of a film by an author or by a musician, and then there's music performance afterwards, and then everybody eats together. I just think that kind of cultural celebration is a really exciting experience, and yes, everybody should do it. I mean, it's a great, great pleasure and a great honour to be in Holland. It's the third or fourth time that I've been in Amsterdam. It's a city that I have grown very fond of. The reception is always wonderful, and I hope to come back many, many times in the future, and I hope that the books are enjoyed in Holland. I really do hope so.
Only you can see. Open my